tokusatsu, taking the form of many shows including Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Metal Heroes. And today, a group of fans come together to review it for you as Toku Secrets.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Toku Secrets podcast presented by AnimeSecrets.org. I am your host, Nathan Nassau, although I'm going to be calling myself Yellow Owl for this for these next few reviews. And that kind of gives away what we are going to be doing in this video. Today we are starting a new journey. Last time when we were with you guys, we finished up Samurai Sentai Shinkenger, but as the saying goes, when one journey ends, another begins. And that is exactly what we are doing, as we are going to be spreading our wings and flying as Choujin Sentai Jetman. As we take a look at the Sentai of the same name, we are going to be beginning it. As I have said many times on this podcast, this is my personal favorite Super Sentai series, and we're going to be taking a look at episodes 1 through 10. Patrick and I have already seen this Sentai, but this is the first time that Riz and Anthony are going to be taking a look at it. So that's going to be a really hot topic throughout this series. So with that being said, before we get started, I'm going to let the rest of the crew introduce who they are. So go ahead, guys.
Hey guys, I am Rizwan, also known as the Black Condor, and yes, Nathan, I took that from you, and you couldn't use it. Haha.
Oof.
I let you do that.
I know.
Extreme oof. I'm Patrick, and I'm still rocking Shinken Red.
I'm Anthony, also known as Green Hawk. I wasn't calling myself Green Robin, but this is already in the manga. But you know what?
Green
it's
Eagle, dude. It's Green Eagle.
Green
bro.
Eagle, not Green
Eagle.
Hawk.
Eagle. Okay. Okay. Green. Okay.
Get your
So it's green.
words right. Come on, ain't that hard?
It's a hawk, dude. It's red.
I want to be a Robin. Just
Well,
let me have that.
go find a bat, and you can be Robin for him.
Nah, I'm damn good on that. He
Oh my
he
god,
tends to
that was
lose,
so
lose them.
lame.
He tends to lose them, so
It was
or get
lame,
them
but I was
killed.
thinking of the same joke.
Does that mean you're also lame like me?
Yes.
Good. One of us.
Dude, we're all lame. Like, cause I was literally thinking it too, but I didn't want to say anything.
Hell yeah.
So a couple of fun facts and some introductions to Jetman before we jump right in. And for the record, we're going to be trying to do something different for our Jetman reviews. We're actually not going to be going into explicit detail with the episodes. We're actually just going to be giving like brief introductions, a brief synopsis, and then just giving our general thoughts. But with that being said, so a couple of things about Jetman, just to get our feet wet. This Sentai aired from February 1991 to February of 1992. Literally almost a year apart. I'm pretty sure that the first episode came on in February 15th of 1991, and then the last episode was Valentine's Day, February 14th of 1992, so literally almost a year apart. This Sentai was heavily inspired by a popular anime called Science Ninja Team Gatchaman, which is about a story about 5 bird-themed ninja superheroes. Its head writer was Toshiki Inoue. He had three. What's up? Yeah.
To add on to the Gatchaman reference, because I think it's important for our viewers to also know, if you grew up in the 90s and you're watching Cartoon Network, Gatchaman was adapted into English and was given a name Z-Force or Battle of the Planets.
Oh, that's cool.
I watched it growing up, and it was a really, really good anime. At least to 7-year-old Rizwan, it was really good. I'm kind of wanting to watch it again now after getting back into Jetman, because Jetman gives me a lot of Gatchaman feels, and I'm kind of missing Gatchaman now.
It's jumping ahead a little bit. It is very unapologetic about the Gatchaman.
Yeah, it's super similar. It's amazing. I love it.
And also, they used. I remember it being parodied at least several different times. I remember this one show, Megas XLR, did a parody of the Gatchaman in their own way, and I was like, oh, I know that from somewhere, but I was like, couldn't put my finger on it.
One of those Clay Mason Adult Swim TV shows also
Robot
did a
Chicken.
parody. Which one?
Robot Chicken.
There you go. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
the name of it. Yeah, Robot Chicken had an episode on it as well. Not as good as the original, but it was still a nice little reference and callback, I guess.
Yeah.
At some point, now that we're talking Gotcha Man this past week, I want to do a Gotcha Man review on Anime Declassified.
That'd be cool. I might join in on that.
I want to cover Gotcha Man on Anime Declassified so badly right now. Like, I might actually start looking for copies of it.
Cool.
All right.
I might want to check that out. I might want to join that too.
Go back to talk about the writers, Nate.
Toshiki Inoue, he was, while this was his first time as the head writer of a Sentai, he did writing work on every previous Sentai since Flashman, so roughly like maybe a little bit over 5 years. Other writing works, he was also the head writer for Kamen Rider 555 and Kamen Rider Kiva. I mean, 555 is kind of a meh Kamen Rider season, but I know you've seen Kiva, Anthony. Wasn't that pretty good?
Yeah, it was okay. There were several characters I liked more than than less, but yeah, I enjoyed it for the most part.
Okay. And he is currently, he is still into writing Sentai over 30 years later. He is currently the head writer for Avataro Sentai Dawn Brothers, the current Sentai that's airing. And I'm pretty sure those are the only two Sentais that he's been the head writer of, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Another thing about Jetman, and I guess in terms of my opinion on the Sentai, I mean this both literally and from like a historical standpoint. Jetman did for Super Sentai what Power Rangers in Space did for Power Rangers. You may recall that Power Rangers was almost going to be canceled because its predecessor was all terrible and they were ready to cancel it, so the producers went all out, and ironically enough, it saved the franchise. It was the same thing with Jetman. The previous Sentai, Shikyu Sentai 5-Man, was not a big hit. People didn't like it. The ratings were low. They were afraid that the show was going to enter a long-term rut, so the writers went all out for Jetman, and, well, considering how Super Sentai is still on, like 30 years later, yeah. So, yeah, and of course, this is my favorite Sentai, so of course I'm going to say it's like the Power Rangers in Space of Super Sentai, but technically, that's literally the case, too.
So,
Yeah.
basically, what I'm hearing here is that if we didn't have Jetman, Super Sentai and Power Rangers would not have continued into the 90s and beyond.
Yep.
And that would have been really sad because I think Saban was looking at getting Jetman, but then they decided to adapt Zeta Ranger to Sentai that comes after because dinosaurs seemed to be a better idea for it.
Jurassic Park.
Heck, at one point,
yeah.
Heck, at one point, he tried to adapt Bioman.
Well, yeah, but we don't talk about Bioman because. Okay, so quick tangent. I know we shouldn't be doing these tangents very often, but did y'all know that the pilot for Bioman was actually filmed in America?
Yeah, we covered that in
about
our
that.
history of Super Sentai.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah, no, I still want a copy of that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Like, can someone just
find it, give it to us. We'll pay you money.
Yeah, so you can make the case that this is one of probably the three most important Sentai seasons alongside Go Ranger and Zoo Ranger.
Yes, I would say those three, and then if you want to add on a couple of other really important ones, I would say Gokai, and I think also from what I understand, the reception of Dawn Brothers has been really powerful. Like, it's been really successful, and I think it's another turning point for the franchise. From what I'm hearing, I haven't watched too much of it yet.
We'll have to see what the long-term effects of it are, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of curious about, because a lot of people are claiming that Dawn Brothers might be saving it again.
Ironic, same writer.
Right.
I think
this
it's because
Sentai,
bring the writer back. That's how you save the franchise.
and this Sentai had some really long-term effects because it not only saves Super Sentai from being canceled, but for the next few years, for all three of the Sentais that were adapted into Mighty Morphin, so Ranger, Die Ranger, and Kaku Ranger, all of those Sentais didn't really get the best reception because everybody's looking at it as beyond, and everyone is all like, "This isn't Jetman. I want Jetman. I want Jetman." So,
wow.
it really, I mean, what was that, Riz?
I'll say that's really fascinating.
Now, it did eventually stop because Car Ranger came out and was an unapologetic parody of Super Sentai, so people couldn't compare that to Jetman.
That's a season I want to review just because Car Ranger is so stupid.
It is.
I'd like to watch Car Ranger at some point too. It sounds like
we'll be checking that out very soon.
Oh, that'll be a fun review series.
Heck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
But we're here to do Jetman. We'll do Car Ranger another week.
So like I said, we're going to be taking a look at the first 10 episodes. Before we talk about the episodes real quick, though, since this Sentai, unlike the other ones that we reviewed before, doesn't have a cold open, we're actually introduced to the theme song, literally before the episode. One thing to note about the theme song is that it is composed and sung by Hironobu Kageyama, who is very popular in the anime and toku fan community. He is considered the prince of anime and tokusatsu theme songs. He also did the theme song for Masked Man, and he was also apparently the composer for the Japanese theme song of Dragon Ball Z. So
yep,
he has my undying love and attention and dedication.
I mean, Shala Headshala is a very iconic piece of music at this point. So
yeah.
Yep.
What do you guys think of the theme song, though?
So, actually, I'm gonna let y'all go first.
I got nothing to say other than that it's just catchy. I really like it.
Yeah,
like it. It's catchy.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but it kind of has that heroic feeling that fits this team perfectly.
Indeed.
So, to me, it's very catchy, and so the first 2 or 3 episodes I watched of Jetman, when the theme song played, I had difficulty deciding if I liked it or didn't like it, and then after a couple of episodes, I decided I do like it because while it's catchy, my initial thought was there's no real. It didn't grab me beyond the fact that it was a really catchy song with lyrics that are really easy to say. But as you hear it more often, it really started to grow on me a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if y'all had that experience the first time, but I was struggling in the beginning to decide if I liked it or not.
I don't remember what my initial feelings on the song were because my first time watching this season was about maybe 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
But it grows on you real quick. It's not like the Shinkenger intro where it's the first time you hear it, you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
For sure.
The Psychic Lover is just a cheat code at this point for music, but
oh yeah, totally.
Well, so me being the person who's watched more of the modern Sentai, I've gotten very used to the, I don't want to say it's all J-pop because not every Sentai song is J-pop, right? But
yeah,
it has a more J-pop feel.
Yeah, a lot of the Sentai from this era, I think, have good theme songs outside of Rangers was very plain, which is very
yeah.
I think the best way to describe the themes of this era is that they're more campy.
And the 90s one?
Yeah, like the 90s Sentai opening be a lot more campy.
Outside of maybe Die Ranger and Kaku Ranger's theme song, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
No, I agree with you on that as well, Pat. The Die Ranger theme song is actually one of my favorite ones. Even though I've never seen Die Ranger, it's one of my favorite songs. I don't know if I remember the Kaku Ranger theme song anymore.
I do.
Kaku Ranger
Well,
is
that's the
good.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember it, but yeah, definitely Die Ranger is a really good one.
Yep.
Zero Ranger, I don't remember at all. Like, I know I've listened to it a couple times, but it never stuck around my memory as like.
one of the most bland Sentai intros ever.
Oh, I hate that. I hate
Yeah.
that song.
That's interesting.
Like Go Go Power Rangers is so much better than the G Ranger theme song.
Two Ranger,
Right.
Two Ranger. That's it.
Oh God, I remember it now. Why did you have to remind me of how bad it was?
Yeah, it's
But anyway, we'll now jump into the first episode, Seek the Warriors. Now, an important thing to note is that we do not meet all 5 of the Jetman in the first episode. This is actually one of those Sentais where it takes a little while for the whole team to get together. The only other Sentai that I've personally watched where we only meet like 3 Rangers of the main 5 is Kaku Ranger. Because if I remember correctly, the first episode of Kaku Ranger, red, blue, and white are there.
yeah. They didn't form the full
yeah.
team until like episode 5 or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, I like it a lot.
Yep.
To me, it makes for better character development. Didn't Zeo Ranger do that too? The Dinosaurs Sentai?
Sort of like, so we see Kyoryuger. I think that's what he was referring to.
Yeah.
Like, we have like all 5 of the Kyoryugers are there, but they don't come together until unlike episode 4. But they're still Rangers. They're just like acting solo at first.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But so to continue, so we are given a big introduction. The year is 1990X. And that's not a joke. That's literally what the narrator says. There was a military organization. What was that, Anthony?
I was like, okay, Mega Man, NT Warriors or About Network, because they do a similar thing where like it's 20X or X or something like that, or because like it doesn't actually say like what the actual full year is. It's like assumed it's supposed to be like in the far future or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we could just buy that.
Yeah.
There's a military organization called Skyforce that monitors Earth activity on the Earth ship to maintain peace. We're introduced to 2 officers named Ryu Tendo and his fiancee Rie Aue. Aoi, we'll just call her Rie. We don't have to mention the last name. They get selected by a commander of Skyforce, Aya Odagiri, where they will be exposed to things called birdonic waves that, when people are showered with, gives them superhuman powers and will allow them to become a fighting force called the Jetman. During the ceremony, Ryu is exposed to the birdonic waves, but before anybody else can be exposed, our world comes under attack by a villainous force called the Vyram, an interdimensional gang of aliens from another dimension called the Reverse Dimension. They arrive in their flying castle ship, the Vylok. And one of the people, who's like the leader of the Vyram, he's this blue man wearing a helmet, announces that the Vyram has arrived and they are going to destroy Earth to create a new world. The Vyram destroys the Earth ship, and only Ryu and Aya Odagiri escape, while Rie is killed as she's pulled out into space. Ryu is given a cross changer, which will allow him to become a Jetman. As the Earth ship is destroyed, the remaining birdonic waves are left scattered around the Earth, and they basically strike 4 civilians. We see them all, but we're only introduced to 2 in this episode. So the rest of the episode is Ryu and Aya going around to find the other Jetmen, because that Jetmen are basically kind of useless unless it's a full 5-man team. We meet 2 new characters, Kaori Roku Meikon, who's this very ditzy and happy-go-lucky, spoiled rich girl. She accepts the offer to become a Jetman because she's bored of her life. kind of like a typical Disney princess. And then we get the third, an overweight strongman vegetable farmer named Raita Oishi, who initially refuses, but then is basically forced when the Byram attacks his farm. And the episode, and we get this big sort of kind of ish final battle where they all use their cross changers to transform. Ryu becomes Red Hawk, Raita is Yellow Owl, and Kaori is White Swan. And we are also introduced to our main villains, the big four of the Byram. The blue man in the helmet is named Radiguet. We have a robot named Gray, this young child wearing a mask and cloak named Torin, and a mysterious woman named Maria. And yeah, that's about it. So I know, but I kind of spent a little bit of time describing that, but this is the first episode, so we kind of got to get some of the details out. We'll talk about the suits later when we get all when we're introduced to all 5 of the Jetmen. But yeah, I'm particularly curious what Riz and Anthony think of this first episode since they've never seen it before. So they can go ahead first.
Want to go first, Anthony?
Yeah, I'll go first. I actually liked that first episode. It was very like different because I wasn't like used to like, you know, it's one of those things where like you have the main protagonist, of course, but then you also have characters whom you aren't thinking that, oh, these are gonna be they're unlikely heroes, which I do appreciate that because other shows, even Power Rangers has done that like a few times too, where they had like, oh, one person was supposed to be a ranger, but then turn out this person becomes the ranger instead.
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, I enjoyed the first episode. I was from the beginning. I've kind of been like conflicted on if I had thought Ryo is actually dead or not. I don't think she is at this point in the viewing. And my thoughts on the character so far, Ryu is very Captain America like to me. Like
Yeah.
just very not go getter, but like very patriotic and
Man
wants
of
to do
honor.
right. Yeah, he's like a Dudley Do Right, basically. And it's a good characteristic, and I think it's made even better because he experiences loss so early. And you can kind of feel like he's on this path of revenge now because he lost the love of his life, and that's why he's doing that for the Vyram
Mhm.
and becoming part of Jetman. Because I think he cared before, but only in the sense that I was his occupation and that's what he did for a living. But now it's like, oh, it's just got personal. We gotta go get revenge and avenge my lady, you know?
His
Um
Bay.
his Bay. I will say, and I feel like Nathan is gonna judge me. Patrick will probably judge me regardless of what I say. Um I didn't like Kaori in the first couple of episodes.
What do you think about her in this episode right here?
I didn't like her.
Okay.
My reasoning for not liking her is that she's just too spoiled and it's so random, right? Like she's this heiress of this huge fortune and immediately she's like, oh, I'm bored. Let me go become this Sentai Ranger. But she doesn't I don't think at that point in time she truly understood what that meant. And she was mainly in it for the ride and just something fun to do. And I didn't like that because that's not the reason you take on these kind of abilities and powers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't like her character because of that. Now, Raita, on the other hand, that guy's my homie. All right, Raita's my homie. I vibe with that man because all he wanted to do was be a farmer and live a farmer life and not get involved in anything else. But he had no choice when they started attacking his crops, and then he had no choice because, well, stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Raita's my boy. I have nothing but love and respect for that man. Also, I think only Anthony and I have really seen Voltron, but I get
Yes,
big hunk vibes from Raita.
I see it too. Yeah.
For those that don't know, Hunk is the yellow Voltron pilot, and he's a chunky guy as well. And his personality is almost a direct copy of Raita's.
Yeah, I've seen enough of the original uh dub of Go Line, 'cause that's the
Yeah,
series' real name,
Hmm.
from way back in like the 90s. And yeah, I can see the comparison pretty clearly.
yeah,
Hmm.
And he's kind of meant to be a throwback to classic yellows, because like way back in like Go Ranger, like yellow, like Go Ranger kind of set a tradition where like the Yellow Ranger is like this big, overweight but strong man guy who like loves to eat all the time and is kind of a comic relief character, but he's usually kind of a lovable doofus or something like that. So
The
I think
big
they were
guy.
going with that. Yeah, they were going for that approach with Raita.
Now, if they had adapted Jetman to Mighty Morphin and they didn't make Bulk the yellow one, I'd be kind of mad.
God.
I would be mad too.
I'd be kind of mad, honestly, if they didn't do
If
that.
Bulk was
That
ever
makes
going to be a ranger, he would have to be Yellow Owl.
Yes,
that makes
Yeah, because
exactly.
way
it makes sense.
sense.
So I'm just throwing it out there. If they ever did do that and they didn't make him Yellow Owl, I'd be kind of mad.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts on episode 1.
You want to add anything, Patrick?
Um, I'm actually kind of surprised at your review because I know that Riz and Anthony, you two are more so familiar with a lot more of the modern Sentai, like I don't know, like Abba Ranger onward stuff.
Yeah.
But this is pre-Zoo Ranger stuff where everything is very military and technological centered, and it's
Yeah.
a theming that's for people who aren't familiar with older Sentai, probably a little bit jarring at first because a lot of the newer Sentais are very mystical in nature to a certain extent. So it's a different tone, but yeah, your assessment on Ryu is actually very on the nose with him being like Captain America. He's especially when we just talk about Takaru, who's probably the most uniquely written Red Ranger in Sentai. Ryu is very standard fare for Red Rangers in Sentai.
Yeah.
He's
And go ahead.
oh no, you can go.
I was going to say that because of how standard he was written in the first episode, if he didn't have that loss, I'd probably have written him off as like a boring Red.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, going back to that point too, him losing the love of his life within like the first 5 minutes of the season, there's obvious chinks in his armor, and those chinks are going to get hit at a little bit as we go on.
Oh yeah,
And
we're gonna
his
definitely.
Definitely.
his good Boy Scout attitude is actually going to be contested, which is it's one thing to use a stereotypical characterization of somebody, but it's another thing to do something with it. And as we go forward, Jetman does a really good job of doing stuff with his goody goody two shoes character that
Yeah,
I really like.
Yeah.
but if they hadn't done that,
Oh
I
yeah, they
think
could
he would still
easily
be a
have
good
messed
Red.
this up. Yeah.
Like if they had like made, I don't know, if they had made Rhea like one of the Jetman, like if she was White Swan or something, this character would not have been anything important.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Nope.
She would have been like a throwaway character.
Yeah, like no, I mean Rhea would be a really unimportant character at that point. Like
He would
then I
just
would
be
have to say Raita would be the best of the 3 that we meet this episode.
Yeah.
Like that's just facts at this point. So
Pretty strong first episode, guys.
Yes.
it was a good intro.
Okay, we're going to continue with the opening arc with episode 2, The Third Warrior, which is a weird title considering how we meet the third and fourth war. We meet well, actually no, there already are 3 warriors, so we meet the fourth and fifth.
So I don't understand the title either. I was really confused when I was watching it earlier. Like, why are we calling this the Third Warrior?
Yeah, okay, but
I'm gonna assume that because Ryu was already gonna be already is already Jetman already. He's already the official warrior. But I guess the other 3, well, I guess the other 2 that were on the first episode count as like the first and second because they're like the newest ones. And I guess the third warrior means that whoever is the third Jetman they're trying to find, that is what they mean. But it still doesn't make sense because it's still 5 members.
That's the most
Yeah.
icky reasoning for naming episode name ever, but you're probably right about that.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's like it's an explanation, but like it still doesn't make sense.
I don't know. But I enjoyed the episode because in this episode we got to see the 2 other Jetman. One is Ako Hayasaka and Guy, what's his last name? I don't want to say Guy
Ikari.
Ikari, that's wrong. It is
Oh no, that's not
Ikari?
Ikari. No,
No, it's Guy Yuki.
I was about to say, it's not Guy Ikari. Ikari's in Gokaiser, dude.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, when I watched this, I was immediately very interested in the character of Aya. Like, I thought she was a cool character because she did the thing with the jumping and the gymnastics. But I don't know how I feel about her as a character so far. At this point, like during this episode, like, see, just her entire identity was being a gymnast that wants money to be a Jetman. And at the end of the episode, she says, "Hey, this is actually kind of fun. I'm going to do this for free," and gives money back.
I mean,
I like her.
we should state that we do get signs of like what the Birdonic waves do to people in this episode. There's a moment where Guy punches a person and it pushes him back farther than you would expect. Like the force of the punch is insane. And Akko is somehow this insane gymnast who can jump really high. So the Birdonic waves do kind of don't just allow them to become Jetman. They do get like superhuman agility and strength. So it's kind of like civilian powers, except they all have the same powers.
Yeah.
As far as Guy is concerned, we pretty much established that he is a loner playboy. Literally, the first scene with him is that he's in a casino and he gets dealt a really bad hand in poker, and then pulls a straight flush with cards that he put up his sleeve, and he beats the woman and then leverages her to go out on a date with him, and then Ryu and Aya meet with him and try to convince him to join, and then they get into a fist fight, but then Guy ends up joining. Guy becomes Black Condor and Akko becomes Blue Swallow. Guy joins when he gets attacked by a monster, and then they all defeat the monster, and then we get what's probably one of Anthony's favorite scenes, considering how he's mentioned this multiple times. They're all like uniting together at the end of the episode, and Ryu, like Guy is trying to light a cigarette because he smokes a lot in this series, and then Ryu takes the lighter and lights it up, and then he offers it, and he gives Guy like, "Hey, we're friends, right?" And then Guy like gives like this like, "Oh yeah," and then he takes the lighter and then punches Ryu in the face.
That was pretty. That is
Yes.
Guy to a T. Like that is his character,
Yeah.
and I
Remember
love it.
earlier when I said that Ryu's goody boy character is going to get contested a little bit? Meet
Yes,
Yuki
I knew
Guy.
exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
Meet Yuki Guy.
And Ryu and Guy's rivalry is going to be a recurring element throughout the series, but this is one of those rivalries that is actually natural and it works. Like, it's not like Takeru and Chiaki / Takaharu and Yakumo, I think, from Ninja, where it's like, I want to be better than you. It's more like Ryu is a Boy Scout and Guy is some loner who doesn't give, who doesn't give a crap about anything and just wants to do things his way. And those are two naturally clashing personalities. It's like how Batman and Superman constantly
It's
clash with each other.
Well,
it's
I mean,
opposite attract.
well, okay, think about it from Guy's perspective, though. Guy literally is coming in, like, these government officials came and said, hey, you have these superpowers, you got to become a hero and save the world. And he's a loner. He doesn't like people. He doesn't like to interact with people unless it's like other women he wants to have like a thing with. Like, he's not interested in the entire stick. And so for him to be like played up like this by Ryu, like, oh, we're friends now because you helped me the one time, and Guy's like, nah, man, I already helped you because I helped myself. I didn't care about you. That's classic Guy right there, and I'm all here for it.
Like, even in the final battle where they had him and their team blasting, and he was just standing there looking at his gun like, I want to do this.
Right.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to get involved when
And
I
then
don't have to.
finally shot him when he got insulted.
Yeah.
He
I was
said, "Why
thinking
you?"
I was thinking this earlier, but Guy is probably the most un-Super Sentai-like character in the franchise.
Oh, absolutely,
He
100%.
is.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of characters throughout Sentai that are like they're not necessarily antagonistic. They're more so like competitive with each other. But Guy is straight up antagonistic.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, that's his character
Yeah, that's his
trait. I mean,
character.
so like, I know our last podcast review we did, y'all were kind of hinting that there'd be a character I call hot garbage, like I did talk about her last season.
Yeah, I'm
And
waiting to hear how you respond to this because you know who it is.
so
we're talking about now.
I knew even then who you were talking about. Like, I knew who you were talking about in that episode when we were recording it.
Yeah,
But I didn't ever think he was hot garbage. I thought he was just a guy, and he was dragged into this world that he didn't want to be in. So he's gonna act out and lash out because why would he? Like, he had no incentive. Like, that's not his personality to be like a Boy Scout like Ryu.
And it
So
would have been really awkward if he just suddenly changed like that on a dime at the end of the episode.
exactly, and he
Yeah.
didn't. He still holds his own in the next 10 episodes that we're watching. Like, he doesn't
Mhm.
really change that core value of I'm in it for myself. Like,
yeah.
there's
And then
stuff
when
I'll
we,
talk about later, but
yeah,
but Guy is not a character I would call hot garbage because unlike Takaru, Guy was not the leader, first of all. Second of all, Guy doesn't owe anybody anything. He's not some feudal lord.
Mm-hmm.
So the comparison of Takaru and Guy to be hot garbage here is really unfair.
well, I was more so assuming this because of his not to be subtle dick attitude about everything, but with how you're describing how you view him, I can understand why you aren't like jumping on this guy's I hate him bandwagon like you were earlier with Takaru.
Yeah, because he's not relevant to the mythology of the Jetman. Takaru was the key figure. He was the lord. He was the one that everyone was like, "Oh my god, we must do this, the lord this, lord that." So
Yeah.
I mean, the relevance of the characters are very different here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see any way that I could ever justifiably say, "Oh yeah, Guy is a complete dick. He's hot garbage. I hate him."
Well, I mean, he is a complete dick, but
I mean, complete dick, but I like the way his character's written.
yeah,
Like, he I don't know if this is a fair statement to make, but I'm going to make it anyway. He feels 90s to me.
It feels
Like,
what?
he feels 90s. Like, this type of character could not exist now.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. That's
He's
probably
he
a lot of the modern rival characters are so, I'm going to be better than you, and that's their entire shtick.
Right.
Is this guy, he is a very dated of his time character.
Very.
he's the wild card. I'm glad that Jetman is the type of team that it needs a wild card because majority of the team is just like these decent, well-rounded people, and it would have been boring had it had just been like this team and not have someone like Guy on the team. Just all five of them just ready to go and being heroic and all that stuff without no questions asked.
But then it
Yeah.
really brings the point of what you were saying, Anthony, of what was the phrase you used? Of the civilians, of random civilians being pulled into this.
Oh, the was it unlikely hero?
Yeah, hero. Yeah.
Yeah.
This team is the epitome of that.
Oh
For the
yeah,
most part, where
definitely.
you've got the one who was meant to be here, and then 4 people from completely different worlds who weren't meant to be here, and then you've got him who is actively contesting being here at all.
Yeah.
And the team's dynamic is just so good in these early stages because just nobody works well with each other.
I mean, and honestly, that helps a lot that they're so uncoordinated in the beginning.
Yes.
Because oftentimes when you find these Sentai seasons later on, within the first episode, they're like a well-oiled team. Like they know how to fight together, they understand each other really well, and there's no strife and conflict. Here you got a ton of strife and conflict from everyone.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Like
Mhm.
Next season.
it's not just Guy who's giving the conflict. There's conflict from all 4 of them, not counting Ryu, because Ryu is a freaking Boy Scout.
That's one of the reasons the next season Zoom is so bad with characters because it's established that the 5 of them had fought together, millennia ago. So they get
Yeah.
Centuries. Yeah.
they get dropped into 1992, and they've already have a history together. So there's nothing to explore.
Yeah.
And that's just like Zoo Ranger's terrible with his characters because of that. And then that's why such a dip in quality from Jetman to Zoo Ranger, man.
I'm so
absolutely.
bored. I'm so bored. They're boring.
A brief thing I forgot to mention about the end of this episode is that this is kind of the driving force for the villains for the rest of the series.
Oh,
So the Vyram do not have a set leader. It's just those 4, and they all, seeing that the Jetman are, their biggest obstacle. All 4 of them make a deal that we'll all try to defeat the Jetman, and whoever comes up with the monster but destroys the Jetman first, they're going to be the new leader, and we all have to acknowledge it. So that's a big driving force.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
I
Like it too.
I gotta say one thing about this because I mentioned this when we did our History of Super Sentai series. This season has the best villains, and
Yes.
you guys are going to be probably more invested in them than the actual Jetman proper going forward in some cases. This
I can
isn't
see that.
This isn't the
That's another parallel to Power Rangers in Space then, since Power Rangers in Space had the best Power Ranger villains.
Oh yeah, they do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But compared to the Gadoshu, which we just got done talking about, this is light day, man. So if you like well-written villains, strap in. It's not going to get
So many parallels I found to Power Rangers in Space on the spot doing this video.
Yeah, it's ironic how well that worked out on Aces.
What was that? One more time?
It's ironic how well that worked out, huh? The 2 seasons that saved the
Yeah.
series, villains of their respective series.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a winning formula to me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
A brief thing before we move on to the next episode. We should get this, since this is a big part of the show. Let's all give our brief thoughts on the Super Sentai. Now that we have all 5 of them together, we should talk about the suits. Just a couple of brief things. Each Jetman has these deployable wings that allow them to glide and fly, because, it's Jetman, that makes sense. They have a bird blaster, which is a standard side gun, and a bringer sword, a sword weapon, and they can combine kind of like the sword and blaster from Power Rangers Zeo to form a powerful bird bomber weapon. And they also have these gauntlet weapons called the Wing Gauntlet, which I think is like their primary weapon. It allows them to perform their finishing moves. None of them have an individual weapon, though, so they all have the same weapons. But what, briefly though, I want to say that I personally really like the suits. I think I will say that like the bottom part, it kind of under the belt. I mean, it looks like they're wearing their underwear on the outside of the suit, which is kind of annoying, but I can deal with that. I think the helmets are probably the best thing because I think the helmets are perfectly like. I don't know how to describe the way that like helmets are reflective of a ranger's personality, but I see it in the helmets, and I can't describe how the helmets give me the idea of what type of character each of these rangers are, but it's there in these helmets. I can't describe it, but hopefully you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. Those are just my thoughts, but you guys can give your brief thoughts real quick.
Yeah, these are probably like top 5 suits of all time for me. They're the big kind of like bird emblem on the chest. It kind of gives them those very little shoulder pad effects. I like that. The helmets are some of the better. And I don't know. There's just some. They're just clean. So, like there's nothing about them that drives me crazy. Like the Kyoryuger's having the one shoulder pad thing and stuff like that. And it's like I don't know, man. I wouldn't have them as like my favorites, but they're real close. They're so clean.
Riz and Anthony?
I think the suits are pretty dang awesome, actually. Like, I like birds in general. Like, that's my favorite kind of pet. And so birds to me are very significant. So the suits to me are a win, no matter what you say.
I definitely agree with Riz on this one.
But do you get what I'm trying to say about the helmets? Like when I look at Guy's helmet, I can tell from the helmet that guy is probably more of a loner type of person. And like when I look at Yellow Owl's helmet, I can get the vibe that like Raita's kind of a doofus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 I can see it.
Poor Raita though.
And they were the color coding for each character also. Because black is the perfect color for Guy to be rocking. Let's be real here.
Oh yeah.
100%. All right, let's move on to the last episode of this opening formation where everybody comes together. The Power of 5, which, unlike the title for the previous episode, is a perfect title. First off, we are brief thing to note: the gimmick for how the Vyram creates monsters is it was kind of introduced in previous episodes, but we're shown the full thing here. In a lot of ways, it's kind of similar to how Lord Zed creates monsters. Like Lord Zed would create monsters out of everyday objects, and that's kind of how the Vyram does now. Unlike Lord Zed, who just waves his little staff around and then it becomes a monster, they take like this bug thing, like a dimensional bug, and attach it to an everyday object, and it slowly turns into a monster. In this case, Tran creates a monster out of a bathroom faucet. most of this episode revolves around Ryu trying to convince Guy to join the team. Guy doesn't want to join. The other Jetman are going through this training session since they don't have the military training like Ryu. And the episode plays out exactly like you would pretty much think. Ryu and Guy clash, and then there's a point where the monster attacks, and Guy flees for himself, but then he comes back because he remembers all this stuff that Ryu was saying about the importance of helping people, and he finds that he, strangely enough, cares, even though he probably shouldn't. Guy comes and becomes Black Condor again, and they defeat the monster. They transform all together for the first time. Guy is officially welcome to the team, but he doesn't take Ryu's handshake. Instead, he starts flirting with Akko and Kaori because that's just what Guy does. And the Jetman briefly meet the Vyram at the end of this episode. I think a big thing that stands out for me in this episode is an opening scene, which is just another guy scene where he starts hitting on a female cop, and then she won't talk to him, so he intentionally starts speeding on his motorcycle just so the cop will pull him over so that he can actually talk to her. I mean, guy's gonna guy, am I right?
Classic Guy.
This is a certified
Only
guy.
Yeah. So
He is smooth with his approaches. At least I've noticed that.
I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off of something that I've been kind of bugged by so far. Jetman doesn't do any like transformation sequence like how other Sentais have done.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's a very
Yeah.
very bland.
Sentai of
Here's
this
the suit
era
on them.
don't.
Well, I think the Sentai that comes right after does.
No, it doesn't. If anything,
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's less. There's less to it in Zoo Range.
Oh,
I don't remember it happening in Sun Vulcan, but they did have sequences for. Now they were pretty bland, like they weren't like some big elaborate thing. Like for Masked Man, they did it, but it was really just they say Aura Mask, they jump forward, and then they show stock footage of like them jumping through this like force field that transforms them. So there was transformation sequences back then, but it was always like really bland stuff.
I think the first season to really do intricate transformation sequences was probably Mega Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember Car Rangers.
Car Rangers.
Well, Car Rangers was.
Here's a car doing a drift, and then here's their helmet.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. And I know in Old Ranger it was basically just the same as Zeo, but like
they just.
But they didn't show the people's faces. Yeah.
Over the Japanese footage.
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, even like the Ranger footage, like that's way more substantial than anything you got over here in Jetman.
Yeah. It's very simple, but what are you gonna do? Special effects.
It's the 90s. Yeah.
It's the 90s.
I mean, this is Sentai where I find amusement while watching to say, oh look, I can kind of see the string that's holding the character up in the air.
Pretty much.
Oh, when they're flying from the sky to the ground, you can tell this is some real bad green screen work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that makes this episode really good is that it gives good character development for a guy. Like, you can tell that he has a noble side because he does come back, but even though he has it in him, he's still not letting it out fully. Like, he still doesn't acknowledge Ryu as his friend, and if anything, you kind of get the vibe that he's pretending, or maybe for all we know, he really is just there both because, he wants to hit on Kaori, and he also wants to pretend that he's there just to mess with Ryu, like just be annoying to him.
I think that's exactly it. The last part of what you said.
Either he wants to mess with him or he wants to one-up him.
I think he finds Ryu interesting because he's a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
But I definitely like that this is a guy-focused episode. It just stands out as like a good episode to me because Guy is a character that has, like you said, many different parts to him. Like he can be honorable and he can be, you know, helpful, but he still has his own little streak of I'm a flirt with these two girls and make it awkward. And again, you couldn't do this in the beyond the '90s. Like after the '90s, this kind of character would get canceled immediately.
Oh, definitely.
That's one of the cool things about going backwards in time with Sentais, because different decades, different things work, different things were seen as okay.
Yeah.
And breath of fresh air sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I told Nathan, like partway through Sinkenzer, look, I don't want to do Geki Ranger next. I want to go back to Jetman
because
first.
Different era. Yeah.
I want to experience something different. I want to see a season where I'm not just talking about how it relates back to Power Rangers.
Even though we've been making the in-space comparison.
Okay.
I think the in-space comparisons are warranted, though.
Yeah,
They are.
But I just find it ironic that he says that. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So,
But also, it's not every episode we're going to be doing that. It's only like
Yeah.
in the thematic parts of it.
yeah. Anything else you want to say about episode 3?
No, I'm good.
No.
Okay, the next 2 episodes 4 and 5. Episode 4 is called The Fighting Bride, and episode 5 is called Fall for Me. It's a 2-parter, so we'll just skim through this story with both episodes. We're introduced to the Jetman's mechs for this season, called the Jet Machines, Jet Hawk, Jet Condor, etc. Not much to talk about with them. Jet Hawk is the only one that looks actually kind of unique because it's actually designed to look like the head of a hawk.
Yeah.
And the other ones look like limbs because it's exactly what
Pretty
they
much. Had Jetman had been created now, I honestly think that they would have probably make these things a little bit more intricate. They probably all would look all more, have more like limbs, like, you know, maybe some feet, maybe some like actual realistic wings, you know, things like
this
that.
This is also in the era where the mechs were literally just boxes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like we get
and there's not much
the original.
And there's not much to talk about with them either. I mean, Raita's Jet Owl has this deployable claw that he'll sometimes use to like drop boulders on monsters, and
the claw. Sorry, I had made the joke.
And Rocco's Jet Swallow can detach its wings to use it as a cutter, and they can all shoot lasers because that's kind of like a standard thing that individual mechs need to do. But they kind of it's kind of complicated to sum it up. I'm going to do it as best I can. So they're doing a training session, and Kaori struggles, and, you know, she is acting incredibly spoiled. You know, like she says that, you know, she's not good with machines and she doesn't want to do this. And then she pretty much walks out, and Ryu is angry at her because she's putting her feelings first. She gets approached by a rich person who's like a friend of her own rich parents named Soichiro, who proposes to her. He finds out that she's a Jetman and tries to convince her to quit. And Kaori, feeling that she isn't worthy to be a Jetman, does quit. And she goes to marry him. But then when she sees who Soichiro actually is, like, you know, this like greedy rich guy, she turns on him and goes back to being White Swan. But part 1 ends with them defeating the latest dimensional monster themed after a traffic light made by Radiguet. And Kaori gets injured during the fight. And then in part 2, pretty much the entire episode is all about Kaori trying to recover from her injuries because she got paralyzed during the fight in a wheelchair. And she's trying to, like, you know, get more control over her legs since it's a mental thing. The Jetman do get brief encounters with pretty much every major Vyram general except Radiguet, since they're both trying to compete with Radiguet. Now let's just say there, Toran just screws with them. We get some brief moments where Gray is shown to be like this guy who enjoys smoking cigarettes and drinking wine, which is weird because he's a robot and he likes listening to classic music.
My kind of guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Gray is an amazing villain.
Yeah, exactly. They get attacked by Maria, during which Ryu, while close up with her, thinks that she looks a lot like Rie, which is something that I really want you guys to remember because it's going to be important much later on.
Oh, I'm not forgetting that. I've been keeping that back in my mind for a while now.
Yeah.
Good man.
He just
Mhm.
he just brushes it off since Rie is dead and this woman's evil, so she's nothing like it. They fight them off, and then Kaori is able to recover with her legs, and they combine their jet machines to form a giant jet machine called the Icarus Hawken, which is kind of like the time. You guys might remember in Time Force, they could combine all their time flyers to form jet mode. It's like that. In fact, I probably would say that was probably the influence for jet mode in Time Ranger. But they defeat them there, and yeah, that's pretty much how this whole episode, two-parter, plays out. You guys can give your thoughts on this one real quick.
So I have two thoughts I'm gonna give. The first is I love the Jet Icarus Hawken mech a lot. I think it's a really cool mech, and it's honestly it's simple, but it's also elegant and sleek.
Mhm.
So I greatly enjoyed that mech. The other thing is, so if you'll remember, I was saying in the beginning I didn't like Hyuri that much, and I didn't like Ayako that much. This two-parter made me like Kyuri a little bit more because we finally start to see her like as part of the team and not some rich spoiled person, like she's considerate of what's going on around her. She's starting to understand the magnitude of what she got herself into.
Yeah.
And so that's some good character development we got.
Yeah, kind of.
What about
Definitely.
you, Anthony?
I kind of was like I was kind of like on freaking Guy's side when he was basically when you was basically getting on Kaori about being like a princess and all that. And it's like like I understand like with like she might struggle a little bit, being like part of this team, whatever. I get that, but like there's a way to handle things without being so being a dick about it. You know what I'm saying?
And see, I think Ryu doing that is not a reflection of him being a bad person.
No, no,
I
no.
think I think this is a reflection of him trying to handle the stress of knowing that the team is not ready to handle the pressure of fighting the Vyram and getting revenge for his loss of his love. And I think that's starting to manifest in the season a little bit. Like
The chink
you're gonna see little,
the armor.
yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's all part of like his dealing with his own dilemmas and his own personal stuff. And like
Yeah.
the way he lashes out, I don't think he's trying to be a dick, but I think he's just frustrated and he's got no other way to release the outlet.
And I also notice how like he's kind of clueless when it comes to like dealing with other people's emotions. Like you said, he's dealing with grief. He's not understanding that like maybe because I'm dealing with so much stress of like and like I'm grieving, I'm not understanding other people's like feelings when it comes to how they deal with their feelings and their actions and stuff.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Patrick?
No, those two hit all the points I wanted to hit mostly. It's
Cool.
good that we finally got the rich girl getting her maybe being with other rich people isn't such a good idea moment so early on instead of her. This is a character trait that when I first got to the season I was afraid that they were going to linger on it for like half the season. So I'm glad they handled it like in the first 10 episodes because Kaori would have been insufferable if this went on for like another 10, 15 episodes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to episode 6, a single part episode called Get Angry Robo. Um, this this one is so we kind of continue a little bit with the Ryu and Guy rivalry. One thing I forgot to mention is that in the previous episode, Guy can see that Kaori kind of has feelings for Ryu. It was established there, and he has feelings for Kaori. And he's very clearly frustrated with that, and he isn't able to, work with the other Jetman as a team, which is a problem when they're trying to practice to combine their jet machines into robot form. At the same time, the Jetman encounter a building that has been turned into a Dimension Beast by Radiguet. Guy gets caught in the building and Ryu saves him, but then he ends up getting caught himself, and we get the very first encounter between Radiguet and the Jetman, during which we actually find out that Radiguet has this alternative monster form called Radigim, which he turns into every time he's angry. It's like a very feral monster form, like he doesn't really talk much. Guy saves Ryu, declaring that he and Ryu are even now. They expel Radigim, and then they combine their jet machines to form their mech called Jet Icarus. A brief thing to note about Jet Icarus, and this is also the same case for Icarus Hawken. The cockpit for both the individual jet machines and when they're all together in the cockpit,
I know this is going.
it's the same stuff that they used in G Ranger.
I noticed that as soon as I watched it, I was like, yeah, that's definitely Zoo Ranger. Like them taking pieces of their wrist communicator, putting in the machine. I was like, that's definitely some of the Zoo Ranger. I was like, wow, that's
slight differences, like the individual cockpits for the jet machines, they're a bit darker lighting when they're used for the cockpits of the Guardian Beast. And of course, they do change, like when you see like long shots, they do change what the outside looks like so that it'll look like in this case, it looks like the head of Jet Icarus, but when they do it in G Ranger, it looks like the head of Daijujin. But yeah, they did mostly reuse the cockpits. And for all the non-Sentai viewers, we're talking about the cockpits for the original Dinozords and the original Megazord from Mighty Morphin. Not really a huge thing. I just wanted to note that, and any Power Ranger fan is going to recognize that because that Megazord cockpit is iconic.
yeah.
That's not much to say on how this episode ends, except for the fact that Kaori says that she's impressed with Guy, and Guy just smirks and he's all like, "You're going to fall in love with me someday." Like Guy is just going to keep on being Guy.
One of the things
Did you guys?
one of the things
Go
I
ahead,
do like
Patrick. I'm sorry.
is it kind of shows a little bit of how it goes. Like it seems like every time Ryu's going to do something to help Guy, Guy's going to try to match it so he doesn't feel disrespected. Because he almost felt disrespected when Ryu came and saved him. I like that dynamic a lot. But one of the things I forgot, I wanted to mention this in the last episode too, and this one, because the Virums are so competitive with one another to get the leadership role, they are not afraid to get their hands dirty. So
No.
this is going to be far from the last time we see Radiguet engage in combat. It's the same with the others, and it's another plus I like for this group of villains is because sometimes some of the key generals or the leader usually wait until like the ending before they get involved, but this time this is and I appreciate that. The connections between the villains here was more real.
Riz, did you want to give your thoughts?
So copy and paste Patrick's, and you have mine.
Cool.
Well,
What do we think about Jet Icarus, the main mech here? A couple of things. Jet Icarus actually has quite a few weapons. It's actually kind of amazing how many weapons this thing has over the course of a series. It can shoot its fist, shot puncher. It has a spear, a battle axe, a hammer, daggers, a flail. It can use the Jet Swallow's wings as a shield, and its primary weapon is a sword with which it uses its finishing attack, because, that's what mechs do. But
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty decent looking mech. It should be noted, this is actually the very first Super Sentai mech where all 4 of the limbs are made by individual mechs. So that's pretty unique. I don't think. Actually, I'm gonna let you guys give your thoughts just to see if they're similar to mine. Like, what do you think of Jet Icarus?
I don't mind it, but it's probably because I'm spoiled. Because starting from Zoo Ranger onward, the mechas kind of get a little bit more intricate. Because, like I said earlier, this thing's just a box. Like it's very
Yeah.
square and very plain. And then you look at the next season. Daijujin is one of the single coolest designed base mechas in Sentai, I think. And then going forward with what was his name, Daireno and Muteki Shogun and O Ranger Robo and stuff, they all become a little bit more unique and round. That's the word I want to use. So it's probably because this is the only pre-Zoo Ranger Sentai that I've seen. This one is just extremely basic.
But the basic simplicity is what made it such a good mech, I feel.
I mean, to each their own.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to give my thoughts on the episode.
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. Can we just talk about how much Radiguet is a petty mofo? Like, he's like, what? How dare you? Don't make me beat my own blood. No one. No one.
They're all kind of like that, but Radicate takes everything very personally.
Yeah, he's like, I'm literally gonna turn into a monster and like make myself ugly just because you cut me. Which I don't mind. I just thought it was very interesting to point out that like he was like it shows how personal he loves himself. Like he's like, no one can cut me. I'm pretty much like the best ever, and like no one can stop me. Like the fact that you cut me means that like I don't feel powerful. It's sort of like a thing where like it's like I felt this way when I'm sorry for dragging up anime, but like when Frieza first fights Goku and he's getting hurt by him, he said that hurt, actually hurt, that meaning that no one's ever actually been able to put hands on him before, and he's not used to that.
Yeah. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add?
Nope, I'm good. And housing can also be very dangerous, but also just don't get eaten by one.
Yeah. The next 4 episodes are all fillers, so we'll get through these as best we can. Episode 7 is a Ryu-centric filler episode called Ryu's Marriage. And I do mean that with a question mark, because there's a question mark literally included in the title. In this episode, we meet Ryu's grandmother, Kinuyo, who is trying to convince him to... she's trying to arrange a marriage between him and a woman because he's about to turn 26 and she wants him to leave Skyforce and take over their family business. Ryu, of course, doesn't want to because, he's dedicated to being a Jetman. And most of the episode is just Ryu trying to stand up to his grandmother and while they're also battling a monster based off of a mirror, which was created by Maria, and it ends with them defeating the monster. And Ryu's would-be wife goes back to her hometown to get married to a man that she's actually in love with. I think I think the part that'll always stand out to me, and I think everybody else can agree with me, is that they try to scheme this thing where Ryu will meet the woman named Imiko, by the way, and they want to try and ruin it. So Ryu goes there, and then Raita shows up dressed up like a mob boss, and he's basically all like, hey yo, Ryu, where's my money? You got my money? Give me my money. And then Kaori has to walk in dressed up, and she's like, "Oh my God, Ryu! How dare you leave me for this girl? You loved me. You were supposed to marry me." So
Can we just
it's
point out
just
how really good
hilarious.
she looked in this episode? Like, my God.
Oh yeah, that was good. Did you guys have any other fun parts you liked in this episode?
Not really.
I mean, you kind of hit everything. Like, this is a very simple episode with not a lot going on. The only thing I'll say is we get more Ryu development in that we see their family he comes from. But other than that, it's kind of meh.
Yeah. Patrick, anything?
Nah.
Or Anthony?
There's not much to really talk about here.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say that. I'm gonna say this. I honestly think that. I pretty much know Kaori when she said that, like, you know, you're supposed to be with me. I don't think she was. I don't think she was playing. She legit was thinking
She
that.
was
But
not
like,
playing.
yeah, because like, even the girls said the same thing. She was like, "Oh yeah, you have somebody who really, really wants to be with you," and he's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Really, you freaking idiot! She's right there.
Yeah, he's clueless.
How can you not see it?"
The next episode is a filler revolving around Kaori and Akko called The Laughing Diamond, where where Akko accompanies Kaori to a high class party where this rich Japanese man is going to reveal a valuable jewel called the Bloody Diamond. Maria turns the diamond into a monster, which has the ability to hypnotize people and turns them into all these like greedy people that just attack each other out of greed. Akko falls victim to the spell and she becomes this like feral, greedy person. Kaori snaps her out of it, and in a really weird way, like she offers Akko like pretty much all the valuable diamonds in Tokyo, and then Akko snaps out of it, and then they defeat the monster. This is probably my least favorite episode out of this bunch because nothing really happens. Honestly, like I'm not a it's there. I mean, I don't hate filler episodes because sometimes you got to do filler episodes, and this one isn't bad. It's just eh.
Yeah.
Anthony, you want to comment?
This one was okay. I just did. It was kind of just kind of jarring, just seeing like, Kaori just basically just loading all of her diamonds and this money, just throwing it at her. Is like, I mean, I get the reason why she's doing this. Is just I just feel like it's just like, and I feel bad for the butler too because he's to clean all that crap up. I'm like, bruh. That's my thoughts of it.
You were going to say something, Patrick, before I cut you off. Sorry about that. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
It was so insignificant, I forgot what I was going to say. So let's just move on.
My bad.
Nah, it's all good. It wasn't anything important anyway.
It was just like wow, like she did all that, and freaking Butler has to clean all that crap up, and like probably has to put all that money up, probably to I guess put all those diamonds up, or like I guess I don't know. It was just a lot.
The next filler episode that we get is called Muddy Love. It's a Raita-centric episode where so Toron uses the Dimension Bug to create a sewing machine monster called the Fashion Dimension, which does a pretty campy but 90s-esque Sentai plot where he creates these clothes and puts them on people, and then they get brainwashed into being evil.
Nate, I'm sorry to cut you off for a second there. Can I say something real
Go
quick?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, this is the first episode where a dimensional monster can actually speak and actually speaks. Like actual like person. And it's not just like roaring or like just making some random noises. Actually, like it actually can like speak.
Is that a real
Oh,
thing?
I actually didn't notice that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, props to Anthony for noticing that.
Thank you.
At the same time, Raita is meeting with his friend, his old country friend Sadzuki, who we get a flashback where they were both children and he was participating in a mud race for her, and she said that she would marry him if he won. It's a pretty cute flashback, actually. But then they go on what is clearly a date, but he insists that it's not a date. And she is not at all what she was before. She's dressed up like this sophisticated modern woman, although we find out on the side that it's actually an act. Like she's trying to pretend to be like this big sophisticated woman, like she's getting advice from like a Tokyo date guide on what she's supposed to do. And of course Raita is turned off because he likes her for who she previously was. Raita tells her off because she's for how different she is. Saying that the previous Satsuki was like a cute dandelion and she had a genuine root, but now she's like a plastic flower. Then Satsuki runs away crying, but then she gets turned evil by that monster's clothes. But Raita frees her. They defeat the monster. And then Satsuki is returning to home on the train, and she wants Raita to tell Yellow Owl that she's fallen in love with him. Of course, Raita is all excited. And at the very end of the episode, we find out that Satsuki secretly knows that Raita is Yellow Owl. So, pretty great way to end the episode. I think the big thing that really stands out to me here. So, Guy offers Raita advice, and then there's a scene where when they're fighting Ryu is ready to call Raita for help, and of all people, it is Guy who is saying, "Hey, man, I mean, Raita's doesn't get that many dates. Like, let's let him enjoy his date, bro. Come on." Like, Guy of all people is like being sticking up for Raita, and that's what stands out to me.
Ironically, he's the ultimate fake man. Pun fully
Yeah.
intended.
That was a perfect pun.
What I got out of that was that like if it was Guy, if it was Guy going through what Raito was going through, I'm pretty sure like he wanted his team to could be like, hey, like we like no, don't call him, like he's on his date, he's trying to have a decent relationship with somebody. Which honestly, I think Guy is not really that type of guy to be wanting a relationship with somebody like that. But I think he has like some, other alternative motives for his dates. But if in another world, that would be probably what the case is.
There's also a really funny scene at the beginning where Raita is getting himself ready, and he's trying to put like this hair product in, and he puts like. He almost like empties the full bottle of it into his hair, and then everyone is all like, "You're only supposed to put like a small handful in there." Like, Riz, what did you think?
Only a farm boy who haven't done that before would do something like that.
So,
Yeah.
This is my favorite episode of the 10 that we got so far.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I think this is one of the best episodes of the 10 we've gotten. Mainly because I like Wright as a character that much, and getting him to have some screen time and get some more character development, and so like Satsuki, I think those are all really interesting things for him to go through. I will say though, Jetman is very big on the love story thing. This is the third love story in a row.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys, let's do something a little bit different.
No, you'll
I
get
feel
used to
that.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
But overall, I think this is one of my favorite episodes. Like, it's just fun to see Raita, sweating it out, and the nerd and the bigger guy, kind of getting some showtime, like on dates and stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's nice to see that.
Yeah.
Feeding a monster by picking up like a 100-ton boulder and just throwing it at him.
Just hit it
Yeah.
with a rock.
Yeah.
Can we
But
also
interesting
point
how-
out the? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, let Patrick go.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
I think this episode was kind of boring because I thought up to this point Raita was the most underdeveloped of the 5 because the other ones kind of had a little bit of a backstory, but he just kind of appeared and was just the nice guy for the first like 8 episodes. So to finally get some
I'm
semblance
gonna
of backstory on him is really welcome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound very surprised, Patrick, did you say that? I actually thought Raita had more development than most characters, and that the
Well,
least developed character.
No, I didn't say development. I meant like established character.
Yeah, but even then, I think we know more about Raita than we do about like Akko, for example.
We had that scene of her in the second episode of her at high school where they showed where she was big into athletics. She's very peppy, energetic, quick to act and everything.
But she wasn't
So-
athletic. That was a brand new thing after she got Jetman powers.
True, but I feel like it did a better job of establishing like her background and characteristics more
I
than
mean, all I
gotten
all
for
I
him
got
up to this
from
point.
all I got from Akko is that she's a high school kid who got some powers and can now jump really high.
Maybe I saw more to it than you did. I don't know.
I mean, 'cause I
You're
see a
not
lot more
entirely-
of Raita.
Yeah, you're not entirely wrong about her either. But I don't know. I felt like he had gotten the short end of the stick up to this point, but I don't know.
I feel
I don't know.
that. Is anybody gonna say anything else before I say
Yeah.
something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say like it's also very interesting that I remember specifically in Car Ranger slash Turbo, there was an episode where the Yellow Ranger was in with a monster who basically gave people clothes and would turn them into like pretty much like jerks. And I was like, wait a minute, that reminds me of that Car Ranger slash Turbo episode where like they were all being jerks because they were wearing clothing and stuff. I was like,
Nah,
that's an interesting trope.
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me because Car Ranger was essentially meant to be a parody season. So
Yeah. So I'm curious is like that this episode inspired Karin to do that episode, and of course Turbo did adapt that episode. So I was like, okay, and it was by Yellow Ranger, so it was ironic.
Yeah.
Just some cool, funny trivia that I wanted to bring up.
I like it.
Thank you.
We got one more episode, another filler episode dedicated to Akko called Cup Noodles. You can probably tell what this episode is going to be about.
It's about a cup of noodles, guys.
Naruto will love this episode.
So we find out that there's a boy named Tatsuta who went to middle school with Akko and has a crush on her, and he has this obsession with cup noodles. And a dimension beast called the Noodle Dimension, which is literally a monster made out of a cup of noodles. He disguises himself as like this friendly creature and gets Tatsuta to create his own cup noodles. With the promise that he'll become rich and Akko will like him. He creates Tatsuta creates the own cup noodle, which he calls Happy Akko, and it becomes popular. And everyone is eating it. And then the noodle dimension reveals his true self and starts playing this music, which causes everyone who's eaten the noodles, which includes Raita, because Raita likes to eat a lot. They all turn into these really impatient people who just attack people out of rage. Raita goes crazy, and then it ends with Akko revealing to Tatsuda that he's been used. Tatsuda helps the Jetman defeat the Noodle Dimension because he briefly gets weakened because since he's a cup noodle monster, he can't stay alive for as long because he needs hot water in order to live, which is just can't be enough to fit in with this plot, and I like that. Yeah, they defeat the monster, and it ends with Tatsuda being like, "Oh, I'm going to create Happy Akko too." This is just a funny filler episode. I don't know. Actually, you guys give your thoughts first because I'm not even sure what I want to say. Honestly, you guys go ahead first.
I didn't like this episode all that much.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked it.
It was okay. I mean, okay, so let's do a quick recap here, and I'll explain my rationale for why I don't like this episode as much. At this point, we have a pretty good idea of who Ryu is. We have a really good idea who Guy is. We have a really good idea of Raita, and we have a somewhat decent idea of Kaori. We don't, or at least I feel like we don't really get to know a lot about Akko, and this episode does very little to kind of give her some kind of depth whatsoever. Like, all we get is she had a crush on, like, some guy had a crush on her. She finds him kind of creepy or kind of weird, and that's it. Like, no personable details, nothing of interest. Just yeah, um I have this guy who has a crush on me. Like, we get nothing here. At least when we had the other love stories, like we got them to do something. Like Kaori grew as a person. Raita had a chance to like grow as a character because he went on a date and he figured out that she has a thing for his superhero persona, and that's kind of cool for him and his confidence. But Akko didn't grow. Akko didn't get anything out of this. Like, it was filler. It was about her, but literally nothing happens.
Yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
this is me. I don't know if this is me misremembering stuff from my original watch through, but this episode kind of encapsulates. Because I'm just going to jump ahead. I did mention this in the last episode we did on the Shinkenger finale, but this is my second favorite Sentai behind Shinkenger, and one of the why Shinkenger is my favorite over Jetman is because I think this season doesn't really take good advantage of its filler episodes like Shinkenger does. 'Cause I
It
felt like
really doesn't.
Yeah,
I
it doesn't.
I felt like Shinkenger did a really good job of they were filler episodes, but they all had big character impact moments in them that actually had
Yeah.
relevance. Jetman, they're usually just like themed episodes where like there's a character who takes over the spotlight in the episode, but it mostly just kind of revolves around their personality instead of actually expanding on
Yeah.
them. And all of the character development moments are relegated to like very like there's still some filler episodes that do stuff like that, but it's all relegated to plot driven episodes. And this is just kind of a foreshadowing of how the filler episodes in the season really aren't that great. So
Well, so like the thing here is this is again another 90s problem, I think. So in the 90s, they weren't concerned about character development, they weren't concerned about story. they were more concerned about let's make something serialized that we can show once a week a new episode of, and we don't have to worry about making a connection because who cares? These are little kids. They don't have any like preference on if there's a storyline or something impactful happening like how we do. And they're only into it because they want the toys, you know? Like there's a whole different audience here, there's a whole different intent here.
In layman's terms, merchandising.
Right. So I
I mean,
mean,
you're not wrong, but I think it really, as good as the season ends up being, by the time we get to the end of it, I still think this season holds up incredibly well. But I think this is one of the things that holds the season back, is that it doesn't, with how great it is at developing its cast, there's still room for them to have done more.
oh yeah, they
And
could have done a lot more.
yeah, and you two will see it as we go through this. It really, it has a lot of dead space in it. And
Yeah.
I know, like you said, yeah, at the time it does make sense. Sentai's probably gotten better with this when it comes to making the fill episodes count a little bit more, but like even jumping ahead 5-6 years or so, or 7 years, however long it was, until Mega Ranger, which is still a 90 Sentai, it did what Shinkenger did and made the filler episodes have meaning towards the characters, which is one of the reasons why I hold Mega Ranger in such high regard when it comes to the cast. But huh?
Go ahead, Patrick.
But I think that's, if I have to spoil my ending thoughts on the season a little bit, this is the biggest flaw with Jetman, is the fillers are true filler, and I don't like
Yeah.
that.
That's my thoughts as well, Patrick, is that there's a
Yeah.
lot of filler here with no purpose, and it
Yeah,
bugs me.
it doesn't really change too much.
Especially coming off of Shinkenzer.
Yes, and you
So
kind of,
I don't know that.
I kind of established why I have one above the other, and you'll kind of see as we go through this.
Yeah.
I do think though that this Sentai, like Riz said, that they don't care as much about developing characters. I do think this Sentai, one of the things that made it so revolutionary though was the fact that it did embrace more character driven stuff, like with Guy and Ryu in later episodes. So it was revolutionary in that regard, but at the same time you can't expect like a complete change to how Sentai was, because 90s Sentais and even 80s Sentais all had like very pointless filler episodes that don't do anything, and Jetman is just unfortunately kind of a product of that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's fine, and I'm willing to
Yeah.
look the other way on that. But this episode in particular just did not hit the mark for me.
Yeah.
It didn't have any humor. Like I wasn't laughing at the antics. I wasn't invested in the story. I had no interest. I was kind of watching it like this episode felt like more like a chore than something of enjoyment.
That's
Yeah.
that's kind of weird because I felt the exact opposite, because like I
you
actually
want to
enjoyed
tell
this
us how
episode
we're wrong?
overall. So no, it's not. I'm not saying that y'all are wrong necessarily. I just feel like this episode in particular was just kind of like, it was a good like break from all like the crazy drama that like the characters are dealing with right now, and like it also shows that like Akko can be a very like forgiving person, because like this guy who she thought was creepy, you know, was so brave in trying to like stop this monster from attacking her or whatever, and almost got hurt in the process, just trying to stop him and like make sure he doesn't get his water so he can revive himself. It was just, and in the end she was like, he said, I'm sorry for whatever that happened or whatever. Normally the old Aqua would probably would have been like, oh, you're not forgiven, whatever, get out of my face. But this time she was like, you know what, since you were so brave and trying to save me or whatever, I'm willing to like to forgive you for what happened today.
I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I also still find myself struggling to care.
No, it's fine. It's not really anything. But I'm not trying to convince you that I like
I know.
my opinion is right and everything. It's just
Well, no, because my opinion's right.
Here we go with this.
it's an opinion. First off,
This is just a thought that came up about this episode just now because, ironically, we've mentioned Car Ranger a lot in this review for this episode for some reason. This is the kind of stupid concept that Car Ranger would have made hilarious. Because there were several episodes of Car Ranger that were just like this, that were
oh yeah,
memorable for all the dumbest reasons. So
oh big facts.
yeah.
I do. This isn't really in regards to this episode, but more like kind of some of what Patrick said about how Jetman does it. We can. I just want to say this to kind of just transition into the early thoughts as we're wrapping this up. The episode stuff is basically wrapped up now, guys. I agree that Jetman's filler episodes aren't always the best. Like a lot of them are very much like your typical 90s Sentai stuff. But I do think that Jetman kind of occasionally dipped into using the filler episodes because some of these filler episodes do kind of do some stuff. I do think the Raita filler episode does kind of give more backstory for Raita, and not only that, but without spoiling too much, there are some things that happen in that episode that do kind of come back into the series later. So, and that is a filler episode. So, but I'm still sympathetic to what Patrick says that Jetman doesn't use their fillers to their fullest potential. They don't do it, but they do. They don't do it with all the filler episodes, but I think there's a handful where they do, and that kind of laid the groundwork for other Sentai, such as Shinkenger, to eventually start using the filler episodes to their full potential, if you know what I mean. Jetman didn't do it completely, but it laid the groundwork.
I mean, it's definitely better than the process or than the next season.
Yeah.
I'm going to be taking a lot of Zoo Ranger guys, but the Zoo Ranger is 80% filler, and none of it matters.
Yeah.
I'm ready for us to do Zero Ranger and have Patrick rant.
Oh, we should do it just so I can have stand-up comedy roast for that season.
We already talked about we're doing Zero Ranger after we do.
Do we have to? Because I really don't want to do Zoo Ranger.
You can skip it out. I want to do it for my sake.
We're going to do Geki Ranger first, Anthony. You can enjoy that, and then we'll all vote on what we do next after that.
Thank God.
But do you kind of agree with what I'm saying, Patrick? Do you see what I'm saying?
About
the use of fillers.
Yeah, it's one of those of its era things. We've mentioned these things that probably happen now saying a lot, and that's going to be something we're going to bring up a lot more because it's 91 for the love of Pete. But yeah, it's the writing of the time, and
I do think I could probably name 2 other filler episodes right off my memory, ones that we haven't watched yet that do give some character development with fillers.
But
was
with Shinkenger, it felt like they were more that were useful because I honestly can't recall any off the top of my head from Shinkenger that were completely irrelevant to everything. When in this one, there's 3 or 4 in this season that are relevant. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
And
yeah, I sympathize with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Risen, Anthony, I think, Patrick and I kind of already can't really give early thoughts because we already kind of know what we're going to be thinking about this Sentai later on. But what do you guys think early on with these first 10 episodes?
You want to go first, Anthony?
I'll go first. Overall, I actually enjoy the story. Since I've already seen, well, I'm like pretty much caught up on Dawn Brothers. I'm starting to see the similarities between this and Jetman because this is like preluding to Dawn Brothers because of course like he broke Dawn Brothers first, obviously. I mean, I broke Jetman first, obviously. Um, but I do enjoy this story more than Dawn Brothers, surprisingly, because like some of the characters on Dawn Brothers just kind of like irk me a bit. It's not because like they're like, I mean, like I said, the characters don't have to be completely flawless for me to like them or whatever. It's just I don't know, maybe how they're handled. But I honestly don't hate any of the Jetmen thus far. Um, I think Ryu's kind of clueless a little bit, but that's kind of like which his character, I guess. And his high kicks, I don't know what it is. I love when he does the high kick jump kicks. It just looks so cool when he does it.
And Riz?
So Jetman so far has been pretty good. Like it's enjoyable, but if Guy didn't exist, my opinion would be a lot lower of this Sentai. FYI,
Facts.
Guy makes this Sentai what it is. I feel, and if Guy wasn't there, I'd probably be struggling to want to watch these episodes. Quite honestly. Like, okay, so I know I like Ryu, I like Raita, I like Kaori, I don't know what I think about Akko right now, but at least while they're good characters, they're not they don't have much to them to keep me invested. Because again, the 90s was not about characterization as much as it was about let's get the episodes out for the kids to enjoy it. So it's hard to get drawn in without a character that you can anchor to, and in this case, Guy is my anchor. And I think that he's a fantastic character for the Sentai, and
Facts. Mm-hmm.
um, he makes the Sentai what it is. Um, like I said earlier, I didn't really care for Akko's characterization in the last episode. I'm hoping it gets better. Um, I'm also hoping to get more on Ryu and Rai and how that works out. Like, him dealing with her passing and avenging her and everything. Um, if I have to, I'm gonna do my rate rankings right now here because I kind of already gave it to you earlier, Nate.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I had to rank the Sentai Rangers here, Guy is my number one. Raita is my second favorite. Um, followed by Ryu, followed by Kaori, and then Akko. And Guy, you already know why. Raita, I mean, I basically did like my entire expose on why I like him in the last in his episode. Ryu, okay, so while he has a tragic story and while he has a lot of stuff he's dealing with, he's he's still not sticking out as like a great red.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking in time that'll change based on what you told me last time, Nate. So yeah, Kairi, she's cute. She's adorable, but I don't know. It's still early for me to like say that I don't like her. I don't dislike her by any means. It's just there isn't much there for me to work off of except for she's now growing into being a Jetman. So what all I can say there is as the series goes, we'll get more of her and I think I like her more, but for right now, definitely Guy and Raita are stealing the show for me.
Okay. I mean, I agree that, if Guy wasn't here, I mean, honestly, even I probably wouldn't call this my favorite Sentai if it wasn't for Guy. I mean, and it's fine that, you don't like, a character certainly makes the show. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Riz, like, do you think you would like Gokaiger as much if it didn't have Marvelous in it?
Hell
Like,
no. Yeah, like
exactly.
Marvelous made Gokaiger, and I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they had a
I
strong
mean,
cast with. Go ahead.
I was like, Marvelous is a show stealer, isn't he?
He is a show stealer, but
yes, he is.
he makes it very showy on top of that.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with saying, "Oh, if this character wasn't there, maybe I wouldn't like it as much." Because I mean,
No.
yeah, that's kind of like how it is with the show.
Yeah, I agree. Because
Well, I mean, the point though is that if Marvelous wasn't there, it wouldn't be as good. But at least the cameos of the past teams and the interactions would have been a pretty good selling point for most fans that are either coming in or just those that have been around for a while. But if
Yeah,
Jetman didn't have Guy, Jetman wouldn't really have anything, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
So there is that difference. That Gokaiser had
Mhm.
something else to go with it, but Jetman's entire identity at this point is based on Guy.
What do we just briefly? What do we think of the villains? The Vyram. I know that Patrick thinks that they're the best Sentai villains.
oh
So
yeah,
he
we
doesn't
haven't.
really have to say much.
Yeah,
There-
we haven't got a full taste yet, but yeah.
That's what I was gonna say is that I haven't gotten a full taste of them yet, but I definitely can see that they're a little bit better than like other villains and other Sentai. For example, they're much better than the Gedosu, which I didn't really care for as a villain.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean, just the fact that like 3 out of these 4 villains, and that fourth one is a robot anyway. Like 3 of these villains are played by like physical actors. Like they're not people in a suit. They're
yeah.
like you can actually see their faces and see actual emotions in them.
Mhm.
So that's already an instant upgrade.
I do think that the impact of the Jetman having already directly fought all 4 of them at least once already is kind of a good tell.
yeah,
It is. I'll agree with you there.
And just the very fact that they're all competing to outdo each other is
Mhm.
instantly already more interesting.
Well, it gives them
yeah,
something to do aside from wanting to conquer the world.
Yeah, that's why when I mentioned Shitaru last season, how he brought in some kind of internal conflict with the Gadoshu, how he was such a welcome addition. Or was it Shitaru? Or was it Akamaru?
Akamaru.
Akamaru. Yeah.
Akamaru.
Yeah, I keep getting those two mixed up, but yeah, Akamaru. When he came in, he added some conflict, so it was really needed at that point.
Yep.
But that's just like the whole running theme with the villains in this is internal conflict, but we haven't really scratched the surface of it yet. So
Yeah.
Do we want to add anything else for this whole thing?
No, I'm just ready to see the next 10 episodes or however many we do next time.
Anthony?
Oh, I just want to get my little ranking out myself. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. I
Yeah,
would
go ahead.
say Guy, Kaori, Raita, Akko, and Ryu.
Wow,
Now,
Ryu's
Ryu.
just because I put Ryu as last does not mean I hate him or like dislike him in any sort of way. It's just like I said, he like you said, Riz, like he just needs. Yeah, I understand that he has the tragic backstory of like him losing girlfriend and all of that. I just need a little bit more out of him,
Yeah.
because he's still too clean cut for me,
He hasn't got his hands truly dirty yet. Outside of that one the one time where he got kind of like frustrated with Kairi for not being good enough and like taking it out on her for not being a warrior. He
Yeah,
hasn't really explored his pain all that much.
right.
And I mean, look, he lost the love of his life. You would expect there to be more conflict.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other comments, y'all?
Guy is the show
Accurate.
stealer. Guy is definitely the show stealer.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have made our first flight as Jetman. We hope you guys have enjoyed taking this first look into what I consider to be the greatest Sentai of all time. we thank you guys so much for checking this out. Next time we will be returning to Jetman. We'll review another batch of episodes. But until that time, we're going to wrap this up. We thank you guys so much for watching this. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed. Check us out at animesecrets.org. Also, if you listen to us on Spotify or iTunes, we very much appreciate that. One more thing, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please leave a comment down below with your thoughts and some stuff that you would like to see us cover. And once again, we thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time when we take another look at Jetman. But until then, we are going to be flying out of here, so see you guys next time.